Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Hope you guys have been enjoying the content channel as of late. Just been experimenting on the channel, just been trying out new things here and there. So if you enjoy it, let me know. Just throwing caution to the wind and seeing what sticks, But I'm actually re-recording this because I did a version of this with audio only, and I feel like I kind of let my thoughts linger for too long. So I'm going to do this again, but because we're going to make it more condensed. That way it's also easier for me to edit. I'm just going to be completely honest. So we're going to talk about this again, specifically relating to a date. That date being December 18th, 2026, because that is shaping up to apparently be a big day for film this year. And that is because two major films, two potentially the biggest films to come out perhaps this year, amongst others here and there, Avengers Doomsday and Dune Part 3 look to be going up against each other. And I forget who got this date originally, but both Disney and Warner Brothers are not backing down. They are going up against each other for this date, tentatively. I mean, who knows in the future if anything changes. But as of for now, that's what's happening. Now, some people will, automatically be excited because, it is two major films going up against each other, two notable IPs that people seem to enjoy, that, will create some word of mouth and some buzz. But I honestly think this is a bad idea. And I have two reasons for it, and I feel like they're pretty obvious once you put it through a certain prism. But just to give my 2 cents on the whole thing. Now, just to say up front, obviously it'll be fun. It'll be fun to watch both movies back to back. I probably will end up watching both. My brother wants to watch the Avengers film. And I'd be curious enough to see what Dune Part 3 is all about. So I will see both, and, for a night, it'll be nice. It'll be fun. But in terms of financial potential and overall competition, I feel as though this isn't a great idea. And to start off real quick, we have to revisit the Barbie Oppenheimer situation, because this is where it's all really coming from. This isn't just some random thing the studios concoct. They've been trying to replicate that whole trend ever since then. They tried it with the Lord of the Rings film. Remember that the War on Rodenhai or something like that? And they paired it up with another movie. I think it was Kraven the Hunter, which in hindsight was not the best idea in the world. They've been trying to replicate it a couple times, and now it seems like they're more certain on this end because it's major notable IPs. But the difference between this and Barbie and Oppenheimer situation is that it was solely to do with Barbie, and Oppenheimer just happened to share the same day that Barbie was coming out on. Not necessarily that both films were planned out in order to spawn a trend. I think it was purely to do more on Universal's end, where they had doubts on the legitimacies of how that film would perform, because you got to consider what Oppenheimer is. Yes, it is a Nolan movie. Yes, it has notable names attached to it, but it's also a historical drama. And historical dramas infamously don't do well in theaters. We had Napoleon, recently with Joaquin Phoenix, which really tanked. We just had last year, or this year? Was it this year or last year? I forgot. But we had that film Nuremberg recently, which also just came and went, didn't do great, amongst other things here and there. And of course, for a movie that cost about $100 million to make, you would have some trepidations. So in order to create some safeguards to it, you put it up against a more notable release like Barbie, which is guaranteed to get more buzz, and hopefully you reap some of the benefits from that. And sure enough, that's what happened. Because Barbie already was making it itself a trend. I mean, people were already dressing up and doing this and that, and then they've caught wind and realized that, oh yeah, this movie's coming out also, and then they just collected that into the trend, and it became what it became. So it wasn't that both these movies, were planned out to be a specific thing. It was that one movie was trying to piggyback over another, and it just happened to be that they both benefited from such thing. Sorry, my throat's a little dry. So it's different on that end, on that type of scale. So in this case with Avengers and Dune, they don't have to be piggybacking off of each other. They both can do well on their own, So it's not like in the case of Barbie and Oppenheimer where you have one movie piggybacking over another. This is two major releases that more than likely could do well on their own going up against each other. And the second point of this conversation, which makes this, I think, not a great idea, is solely to do with that in and of itself. These are major releases. When you look back at the Barbie and Oppenheimer situation, Oppenheimer, I believe, as a production, cost $100 million to make. Whereas Barbie, I think, was like relatively 150 or so, maybe 200, 250 after marketing expenses. Not on the level of what Avengers and Dune are more than likely to have cost. We're talking Avengers Doomsday, which is collecting a huge cast and lots of special effects and here and there. I've been hearing murmurs from saying that maybe it's like 300 million or something like that. And then you get to Dune Part 3, which is the third of its series, and it's also collecting other stars on top of that. Wouldn't be shocked if that was at least a $200 million production on its own. And we have to consider marketing on top of that. So both these movies, more than likely, not to exaggerate, because you remember theatrical distribution, also 50% cuts, from ticket sales and stuff like that. These movies, on their own, have to do probably at least $1 billion a piece. So that month has to be huge. That month has to be huge, right? So, in the landscape of film nowadays, I just don't think that's possible. I think that it's possible for a film every so often, but to put two movies that could just do perfectly fine on their own and put them against each other, you're now dividing audiences and causing for what could be to be less, because now you're splitting the difference between two major films coming on the exact same day. And then finally, kind of leading into that second point I meant to lead into, competition. This is not a competition, okay? It's very clear which film will do more than the other, okay? It's like the Barbie and Oppenheimer situation. It's not that surprising to knowing which film will probably end up doing more than the other. Barbie obviously was going to do more than Oppenheimer, and Avengers is clearly going to do more than Dune, because you're talking about Dune just talk about Dune for a second. You're talking about a relatively 5-year-old series at this point. It's more or less in my generation that is familiar with Dune. A lot of other audiences are not as familiar with Dune. Yes, it's been getting better in terms of financial pull over the years, and Part 3 is expectingly probably will end up doing fine, but it is not to the level of an Avengers movie, which has been established now, the whole MCU, for nearly 20 years at this point, and the Avengers films as they are just considered like event type films, so and you're collecting older cast members on top of new ones, and then other people from other series to be a part of this. So it's a lot more packing than something like Dune Part 3, which is heavily relying on your experiences with the first two movies, whereas this, Avengers, is relying more on nostalgia. So, and notoriety upon who they're going to have in the movie and stuff like that. So it's not a competition. It's really not a competition. And I think that for Dune especially, I think that they need to move. I think that they either need to move up or they need to go to next year, because I just don't think this is going to be in their favor as much as it's going to be for Avengers. So, and like I said, when you consider the marketing expenses, the productions of these films, how gargantuan, how big they're probably going to be, to consider what kind of money needs to be made, I just don't think it's feasible at this point, because of just the rise of streaming and because of the audiences being split on where they want to even go nowadays, whether they're going to the theater or waiting for streaming. It's just not as practical as it once was. So yeah. So I just think that the investments are not the same as Barbie and Oppenheimer were. I don't think that there's going to be much room for these films to truly profit, and I don't think that it's really not that much of a competition. I don't think that it's gonna be like a neck and neck thing as much as I think Avengers is just gonna trump over whatever Dune was potentially going to make. They're hoping that a trend will probably be spawned from it, and it likely will because the internet. But I don't think that the general interest, is going to suffice when it comes to considering the productions and the general investments that these films carry. So it's not the same. It's not the same as what Barbie and Oppenheimer was. Very different things are going on, and very different reasonings behind such things. Barbie and Oppenheimer was just happenstance, really. This is being planned out. I just don't think they're thinking in the right way, in my opinion. But you guys let me know. What do you guys feel about with this whole Avengers and Dune clash? Do you guys feel that it makes perfect sense, or do you feel like me, where I'm just like, I just don't see where the benefits truly are, especially in Dune's case? But let me know. Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section below. And that's gonna be it for this video, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.